Well, good morning. This is the Curtis Restoration Shop. We're out in the P-40 restoration, and we're going to continue our little bit of talk about the P-40. We're going to talk about the engine in this aircraft. It was the Army Air Corps specified in the P-40 contract that it wanted armor plating and armored glass. It wanted self-sealing fuel tanks, and it required to have the Allison V-12 engine, which this is the original engine from the original crash site. The engine is an Allison V-1710. It's a -81 model. It would have been in the late 1944 era. It had a displacement of 1,710 cubic inches, hence the V-1710. The military names their engines by L as in inline, R as in radial, and V as in a V engine. So this is a V-1710, a V-12, 12-cylinder. So this in metric terms, and we don't usually use metric terms, we don't give an inch, but so in metric terms it's 28 liters. A Merlin engine, which was the British version of their fighter aircraft engine, and elsewhere it was used for a lot of different applications. That was 27 liters. And the German DB601 series, that was 33 liters. In 1945, which this aircraft was flying, you could push this engine with war emergency power and 130 octane. You could push it to close to 1,500 horsepower, about 1,450, somewhere in that range. This engine was specified because it was had a very smooth power curve, and it was very reliable and very strong. Allison was at that time a division of General Motors, so they were producing these engines. The engine turned a supercharger. The supercharger is geared directly off the rear end of the crankshaft, and it was specified by the Army Air Corps to be a single-stage, single-speed supercharger, and performance was in the contract to be up to only 15,000 feet. The reason being, in the 30s, the bombers were actually faster at altitude than the pursuit planes that were trying to get at them. So they figured they wouldn't be needed at high altitudes. But unfortunately, in 1939, when the British came calling, they needed high altitude, quick interception, and this aircraft didn't give it to them. But what it did do is it allowed them to use this aircraft in the desert and in the Commonwealth, where most of the aerial combat was at a lower level, and allowed to keep their Spitfires and Hurricanes at home for high-level, quick interception. Like I said earlier, this is a Model 81. I think they went up to Model over 100. And this engine was used in all the P-40s, except for a few that one model used Merlin engines, Packard built Merlin engines, and the performance was not enough to warrant using the Merlin engine. So this engine was very robust. They pushed the horsepower as much as they could, and that's why they had to lengthen the aircraft to get the vertical stabilizer back farther counteract the P-torque from the increased horsepower. So this aircraft engine was used in all the P-40s, most all of them. The Bell Aerocobras all had Allison engines, and there were 2 engines in each P-38 Lightning, all Allison engines. This aircraft engine is still being used today. Actually, not too long ago, I saw a tractor pull, and they had a tractor with 3 of these stacked up on it in tiers, trying to pull a load. So it was very interesting. So another innovation with this aircraft is the exhaust stacks. They're a Rolls-Royce innovation. There's 6 pieces of stainless molded and or shaped and welded, and the reason being it streamlines the aircraft. The flash signature, the exhaust flash signature is lessened, especially at dusk and at night. It's more toward the back rather than coming out the sides. And third and most important is that the exhaust gases are coming out at 1,200 miles per hour. So you're getting thrust from each one of these, pushing the plane forward. And it would give this aircraft about 5 extra miles per hour just with that design of the exhaust manifold. And like I said, it was I believe a Rolls-Royce innovation for the Merlin engine, and on a Spitfire we give them about close to 10 miles extra per hour. One last thing about this supercharger. The Army Air Corps specified a single-stage, single-speed supercharger, so it had a performance up to 15,000 feet. After that, performance bled off quite significantly. The difference in superchargers, like a British supercharger on their Merlin engine, they'd have a 2-stage, 2-speed supercharger, and gave good performance through a wide range of altitudes. The only problem was it was manually operated by the pilot. So if he was at let's say 25,000 feet pushing maximum boost, and they see the enemy and yell tally ho or whatever and dive on him, but the pilot forgets to change his boost setting, and now he's at 10,000 feet blowing maximum boost. He's got a few seconds before he starts throwing things out the side of the engine. So you had to be mindful of all this. There was no computer or anything. The computer was in the pilot's brain. And but with the Germans had on their DB series, they had a supercharger which had a variable infinite range, and they had a oil tank, and as you went up, the atmospheric pressure allowed the oil level to change, and that would adjust the speed of the supercharger. And that was linked to the throttle, and all the pilot had to do was push the throttle, and the way he went, he didn't have to worry about his settings or anything like that. It was all automatic. So there were differences between aircraft, and you had to get used to their performance and their abilities. So that's the basic with this engine, and we appreciate you coming in.